Hi, everyone. Hi,
Hey guys, great to be here.
Hi. Nice to have you all in here. Let's maybe wait a moment for more people to join in.
So happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, wow. True. Completely missed that. Hey, Michael, how are you doing?
Going well, thanks. Yeah, how about yourself?
Good. Are you wearing your St. Patrick's Day costume?
Don't really have much green stuff to wear, to be honest.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. Are you wearing something green today for St. Patrick's Day?
No, I woke up and I thought about it, but I don't have a whole lot of green attire, so maybe I'll find something.
Green as an apparel color somehow.
We need some green beefy gear, since I'm wearing my beefy gear, but it's mostly black. So maybe I'll have to work with a pal to get that done.
Plant-based beefy swag. Michael, where are you calling in from today?
I'm in LA at the moment.
Switzerland. Sitting here in the beautiful Zug. It's getting warmer, which is nice, and the sun is shining.
Oh, nice. That's great to hear. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think we can probably just get started. And hey everyone who's in here and who will join in a moment. Super happy to host this small panel right here. I think we got some really amazing guests today. In our fireside chat, we have Weso from Beefy Finance in here. We got Michael from Fantom. I myself, I'm Hilma. I'm one of the founders of Gelato, legendary member. And yeah, super happy to have these great guests today in our community call. And yeah, today it's all about Beefy. It's all about Fantom. It's about developing applications on networks like Fantom, what it takes to build something like Beefy, which is one of the largest yield farming protocols in DeFi, right? It's this amazing platform. And yeah, today we're just going to dive a bit deeper into the nuts and bolts that you need to be aware of when you want to maybe build something yourself at some point, or want to hear how you can create something as big as Beefy maybe in the future. So yeah, super excited to have these guests joining us today. And I think we'll also talk about a bit of what we can do in the future and what will happen with Beefy, with Fantom, what's next. And yeah, super excited to hear about that. But maybe Michael Weso, if you just maybe give like a quick intro to yourself, and then we can just jump right in.
Yeah, thanks guys for hosting this. Really appreciate it. I'm CEO of Fantom. Just working on Fantom, nothing else. Yeah, that's my intro.
So I'm Weso with Beefy Finance. I'm the lead developer in charge of strategic partnerships and growth. So I'm excited. We've done so much with both Fantom, and we have so much to do with Gelato. So really excited about engaging conversation. We can give you guys all some insights on, I think, what's to come, and a little bit of the history on the past and what it took to develop to get where we're at. But super excited to share the space here with both Michael and Omar.
Awesome. Yeah, also excited to have you here, and I think it's quite a cool mix because we have like different layers of the stack here represented, right? So we got Fantom, obviously, as kind of like the L1 blockchain. We got something like Gelato as in sort of middleware protocol, the infrastructure to automate smart contracts on top, and then something like Beefy, which is on the application layer, which then leverages both of these kind of like platforms underneath to just create some amazing products. And probably this is also kind of like a good starting point here to your way. So I think it is just worth maybe quickly walking through what Beefy Finance is, what you guys do, and what you have like been working on until now, and what's coming next for you guys.
Sure. So Beefy Finance is the multi-chain yield optimizer. So we're the largest in I think, the vastness of the amount of network coverage we have. So we're on 14 blockchains currently. Fantom is actually our largest in TVL. We are a yield optimizer, so we build on top of underlying yield farming opportunities, and then we optimize that yield by either selling or developing a strategy for the farmed asset in order to maximize the deposit amount of whatever you deposited. And so we do that across, I think we have now 750 vaults across the 14 chains. Our legacy vaults are like about 1,500. So we've continued to develop on each chain quite a bit. We've been around for a year and a half. We originated over on BSC. And so now we're continuing to expand our multi-chain journey. But I think we're now looking into even more product options beyond just building on top of traditional AMMs or decentralized exchanges. So that's where a lot of the opportunity comes with both Fantom and Gelato. Most recently, we developed basically like a liquid staking version of Fantom to be able to activate the highest yield we possibly could by delegating to Beefy's validator. We have some other unique, innovative opportunities where, we weren't really able to do some of the things we wanted to do in the past, where you'd have to, require some sort of like automation in the background or bot to, call the smart contracts because there's limitations. And so really excited to work with Gelato to like open up the, opportunities and possibilities of what we can develop here in the future. And we obviously, since we have, I think such a large user base on Fantom specifically and so much engagement, it's going to be really fun, I think, to develop some of these initial products in the Fantom ecosystem and working with so many different partners to come together to, put together all of the Lego blocks to continue to build on top of each other. So yeah, that's a little bit about Beefy.
Epic. Yeah, I just checked out the figures. I think you have roughly around $1 billion in TVL, right?
Yep.
Which definitely makes you one of the largest sort of like yield farming protocols, or the largest. I actually didn't check in DeFi multi-chain, and I have to say I'm always extremely impressed when I go to Beefy Finance website and just the sheer number of networks you guys are expanding to is just mind-blowing and we do it as well, right? But I think you guys are still always some chains ahead of us.
Yeah, I think we're the largest DeFi protocol that doesn't have Ethereum. So yeah, for sure, one of the larger in total, I think, TVL for all of the DeFi protocols, but definitely I think the largest non-Ethereum protocol.
Yeah, and I saw, I think you have roughly a third of that is on Fantom, right? It was quite surprising to me. So you have, from this multi-chain protocol that you guys are, and you are on all the big ones, right? Most of the liquidity is actually in Fantom. That was quite surprising to me. So maybe just do you know why this is the case? Is it because you are now, I think this is exclusively for Fantom, right? Offering these more exclusive like liquid staking sort of products there, and is that driving the TVL, or what do you think is the reason for that?
Yeah, for sure. For the liquid staking version, it's the first thing we've launched as I guess you would get a token where it's tradable and being able to access, like, say, locked staking rewards. But just the whole ecosystem within Fantom has been exploding with different types of innovations. And so really what ends up happening is protocols like Beefy start to really accelerate their growth and innovation when other partner protocols are available to build, with or on top of, or, other protocols are building on top of you. And so we realized a lot of that opportunity, either, by working with a lot of the different partners within the ecosystems, or really making the best we can with these cross-chain partnerships. So we have a cross-chain partnership with ChiDAO, which allows basically to utilize Mu tokens, which are essentially interest-bearing assets as collateral. So that opens up the doorways for a whole bunch of unique strategies and opportunities. Now we're being able to do a lot of things with our liquid staking Fantom token, working with Beethoven, SpookySwap, SpiritSwap, working with Solidly on really activating and pushing that forward. So I think the ecosystems start to develop and grow as much as the partners want to work together. And so that's something that you see, specifically that Fantom does really, really well, which is have all of the ecosystem products really kind of working in tandem and building together. And so I think it's something for these other networks to kind of take notice of, is how do we continue to engage all of the different protocols and get them to want to build, unique products together, because, not all of us can do everything, isolated. We need a lot of different things to make really unique opportunities.
Yeah, no, I have to say I totally agree with that. Also, really comparing Fantom to other networks, and we are similar to you guys, represented on all major EVM-based compatible networks, Polygon and BC and whatnot. And definitely, what is very interesting about Fantom is the developer community there is quite, I would say, unique and collaborative. And it was very, I know the interest there for something like Gelato as well was very high at the very beginning. A lot of people are asking to collaborate between projects, and there are really unique teams building unique stuff and also really cool things. For example, I'm a big fan of SpookySwap, one of the first actually AMMs that integrated our kind of like limit order system natively on their UI, but they didn't do just like copy paste our kind of like components over that we pre-built and that everyone can just import. They actually completely build their own custom spookified UI on top, which looks really nice and works really smoothly actually. And they had their own sort of style to it, which I really liked. So I definitely agree with that. And yeah, also I think we received a lot of help from the Fantom Foundation to just get connected to a lot of projects. And yeah, maybe Michael, to you, how do you guys achieve, or what is it kind of like something you planned to do, this kind of like proactive and collaborative environment? And if so, what's your secret sauce here? How did you actually achieve that, or did that just kind of like organically grow into what it is today?
The growth is definitely organic. I mean, the object, there's like the Fantom ecosystem and the Fantom Foundation, and the aim of the Fantom Foundation is to grow and support the Fantom ecosystem as much as possible. So, the first objective is, and the highest priority is always working on the technology. So, always working on improving the underlying consensus and the middleware, the smart contract execution engine, in order to achieve better user interface for, or user experience for the people using Fantom, which is what users care about are faster, cheaper, more secure transactions. But the second part to that is working with protocols such as Beefy, and also services such as like Gelato, to kind of like deploy on Fantom and to give them as much support to grow as much as possible. With technical integration, with marketing support, with like the grants program, that sort of thing. But a lot of growth on Fantom, in fact, almost all of the growth on Fantom has just been organic. It's just people who found like Fantom's technology, who said, "Hey, this is something interesting. Maybe we can build something on it." If I come from Ethereum, I would already know how to build on Fantom. Deploy the smart contracts, and hey, wow, the consensus is pretty fast because it's asynchronous. I've got faster, cheaper transactions there that are still secure. So that's what it like really has like come down to. And Beefy is one of the biggest protocols on Fantom, I think, because it just works. Like, it's very easy to use. It's a simple interface. All the information is on a single page that you can scroll up and down, and it simply just works. There's never been any issues, to my knowledge, of Beefy on Fantom. So it's been a great protocol, and I think the TVL numbers just speak for themselves. People have found that Beefy has been quite useful for them and secure, and so they've just gone and deployed their funds on Beefy, which is why I just checked the TVL, which is why it's about 370 million right now. And Gelato, I think, has been on Fantom for like more than a year now, and it's a great service that a lot of people have been using, such as Beefy that we have on the call. Again, they've just been great. I've heard like no issues, and it wasn't us that reached out to Beefy to say, "Hey, come on to Fantom," or Gelato, "Hey, please come on to Fantom." They found us, and they were interested in deploying, and so the Fantom Foundation tried to help them as much as possible, technical and marketing support, and it's been great.
Yeah, and for example, for us, it's always we are not kind of like making decisions of where Gelato should be deployed. It's more like, okay, where are the application developers, and where do they want us to deploy, right? Where do they need us to deploy? And very early on, we had projects like Spooky and also Spirit, roughly at the same time. Spirit Swap, Spooky Swap, right? Both they did a great job in the AMM space. And they both reached out to us very, very early, and said, "Hey guys, we need something like you. We want to support conditional or recurring transactions on Fantom." And then we deployed the whole network there, right, and made it work very nicely. And now all the other protocols like Liquid Driver, and there are just a bunch of them. Like the beauty of Gelato is just I see new projects using us. I don't even know what they do right every day. And yeah, so the foundation was kind of laid out with these kind of like early protocols there, and now of course Beefy, one of kind of like the biggest power users there, with their gigantic number of vaults doing the harvesting, is also just amazing to see. And what really surprised me, because I'm looking just as my dashboard, where I see all of these transactions that are executed via the Gelato network on all the networks, and what was surprising to me is that at the beginning of the year, like January, February, right, there was this general downturn, I would say, in the overall market. And like the downturn is always reflected in prices, but also just in general in usage of these networks, right? Because people do less things, maybe some opportunities vanish. But then on Fantom, there was actually an increase in usage and an increase in traction during that time, compared to all the other networks. And so I was wondering, you guys, maybe Michael or Weso, you can chip in as well. I know Solidly was this very hyped up project, right, that launched at that time. Was that the single reason why that happened, or what is your kind of like hypothesis on that?
I think it's a combination of like projects on Fantom. So I think Fantom, is first and foremost known as kind of like a DeFi chain, and that's for like a couple of reasons. So the first reason is that the way that Fantom had its initial like a significant increase in growth was in like 2020, when two dexes called Spooky Swap and Spirit Swap, which are forks of Uniswap and SushiSwap, deployed natively onto Fantom, and their interfaces were just like really excellent, because they were just like very smooth, easy to do swaps on, and like I would even say they're better than where they forked from, Uniswap and SushiSwap. And so I think that started to attract a lot of people being like, hey, Fantom, like is actually useful, and seems to be processing transactions fast. Let's start using Spooky Swap and Spirit Swap. And then that attracted more developers, which attracted more users, which attracted more developers, and so you got that like virtual like cycle of like network growth or organic network growth. I think the second reason is that Andre like helped promote Fantom as kind of like a DeFi chain as well. I mean, most of his projects were on Ethereum, but he also talked about Fantom and deployed a couple of things onto Fantom. One of them being more recently Solidly. But like a lot of the growth on DeFi has happened, in 2021, before Solidly launched, and so I think a lot of that has just been like purely organic. But also, I want to emphasize that like Fantom is like a generalized smart contract platform, so it's just like a platform that can just be used for DeFi. But it's also a platform that can be used for like NFTs, metaverses, gaming, and other applications that people are interested in as well. But DeFi has definitely been a big part. I mean, we've seen all sorts of different protocols deployed onto Fantom, like you've seen on Ethereum. So, for example, like lending and borrowing protocols, we're having different like perpetual swaps being deployed onto Fantom as well, and of course, your usual dexes, and automatic market makers.
And especially
Such as Beefy.
algorithmic stable coins, I can tell you. They are
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
there's
Like
two.
algorithmic stable coins and like all sorts of stuff. Yeah, wonderful stuff.
Yeah. And I was a bit like laughing there because I don't know, you guys probably know Tomb, right, on Fantom. And yeah, I think we have roughly around 10 or 12 or 13 Tomb forks using Gelato to rebase their algorithmic stablecoin alone on Fantom. And it's
Yeah,
just always
that's exactly right. Yeah.
it's always amazing to see the just the number of little developer groups that to just try to take something, maybe change a variable here and there, and to try to kind of do their own spin on something. But as the whole infrastructure is in place for them to do that, right? They can leverage, I don't know, AMMs like Spooky to get, I don't know, prices and do trades, and then they can leverage something like Gelato to automate the rebasing, right? They could literally push out an algorithmic stablecoin with in probably like an hour. And this is just this is just crazy. Of course, there's some UI work to do, etc. But maybe Weso, you as kind of like this one of the largest protocols on Fantom. What do you think is the reason from your perspective? Do you think it's the kind of like underlying AMMs that work really well and accumulate a lot of TVL, or what is your hypothesis?
When we launched on Fantom, it was because we had a ton of users that wanted us to launch there. So at the time, I mean, and this was like really early on in Fantom's lifespan. So like, we were one of the first protocols, that launched on Fantom along, right after, the AMMs and everything. So when we launched, we weren't sure exactly what to expect. We actually launched, I think it was on Thursday or Friday. And then by Monday, we had like 10 million TVL, which was, at the time, it was like, wasn't expecting that at all. Like, usually we like, build up to like 1 million and then we're all excited, like launch an announcement. Oh, we just hit 1 million TVL. But yeah, it was like within 3 days, it was like 10 million TVL. It was just the amount of excitement and usage that came like immediately after we launched was insane. And so as we continue to develop, it was like we kept seeing that engagement, and it was like all of a sudden there's like more and more protocols that want to build here. And then when those protocols launched, it's like all of a sudden that their TVL shot up. So we've seen, since we've been on Fantom, consistent user engagement, and it seems like it's only gotten more and more engaged. And so when I talk to a lot of these different networks, every network has its own, I think, unique user base. And some of them come from, if it's a centralized exchange is on blockchain, maybe they come from that centralized exchange. Or I think there's very uniquely, like Avalanche has core Avalanche users, and it seems like a lot of people who were very interested into DeFi over on Ethereum, but wanted to play around in a cheaper transaction fee atmosphere, have migrated over to Fantom to be able to maximize on a lot of these opportunities. And so I think, there's a whole lot of innovation that's sort of taken place as it's been, as like a builder, it's easier, cheaper to do, unique and fun things over on Fantom than it is to like build on Ethereum. It's just becomes so overly expensive. And then, if you want to have a lot of transactions happen, then all of a sudden that becomes a whole hill that you have to climb over. So we are able to like do unique and fun things over on Fantom for cheaper transactions, and people can then interact. And so, now you're seeing, I think, of course, there's a whole lot of forks of, Tomb and algorithmic stablecoins that for at least a month or two were like the popular thing. But, you're starting to see like protocols, build beyond whatever the fork protocol is that they started with. And you saw that with, I think, Spirit Swap and Spooky Swap, that, originally they were, a fork of, one of the existing AMMs, but that they've continued to innovate and develop and build their protocols. And I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of these protocols in the Fantom ecosystem, is that, they may start as one thing, but they're starting to develop their own sort of uniqueness beyond whatever the fork protocol is. And so as we continue to see, I think, more innovation, more fun thing. I mean, like I'm excited about like options. I can't wait till we can start like doing, all sorts of like options trading and being able to do more like hedge delta neutral products. And I actually think Gelato in itself can like really help us with that, because you need some, I think, off-chain contra calls in order to make that kind of stuff happen. And so I think there's just so much more innovation that can happen, especially in the next year or two on Fantom. And it's just it's all enabled because the transaction fees are just so much more significantly cheaper than Ethereum. And it's just been super easy to work with the Fantom Foundation and to get their support on, whatever we're trying to build or accomplish. And like I said, working with the partner protocols within the ecosystem has been just so easy. Like we're all like a group of like friends that are just trying to build like things that we think are fun to use. And I think that's why you're seeing such success.
Yeah, totally. And I think also, I'm not sure, this is like a theory I have, but like this initial, usually when these new blockchains start, first of all, you need kind of like the basic building blocks, right? You need an AMM, you need this many money market, you need this lending protocol, maybe like a MakerDAO sort of thing. And sometimes, out of like, these are the building blocks and you need those. And then out of there, you can construct more these kind of complex things on top, right? Like option protocols or something, but you need usually this underlying liquidity base and lending and borrowing markets. And I don't know, like for me, it was like Spirit. Like, what I liked about Fantom was there was no like incumbent sort of thing. There was like Spirit Swap and Spooky Swap, but both they kind of started equal, right? And then I think at the beginning Spooky sort of like had a bit more TVL, and it kind of like it varied a bit, but it kind of like felt from the outside at least as there weren't like already everything in stone, and there were still opportunities you can do and things that are carved out, and if you do it, then the other protocols kind of like embrace that rather than trying to do it themselves, right? And this, I think, just adds up, because what really drives DeFi is you focusing on this one specific thing, and then everyone kind of like builds that, and then you have other people that take all of that and combine it into even cooler products, like for example what Beefy does, right? And so everyone's mental energy is kind of like leveraged in the most efficient way by focusing on this building block, and then you can use it and combine it and just experiment and build cool stuff. That's what you just mentioned, Weso. And I think like this option thing, this delta neutral topic, actually we're also investigating that with Giuni or Arrakis, which is beyond the topic today. So I would love to chat to you about that. It sounds amazing. But maybe a question to Michael that I had. What I mentioned earlier, the usage of Fantom really kind of increased quite a bit from basically my point of view, right? Because I see just like transactions that Gelato executes, and I just see this quite big increase, especially relative to the other networks beginning of the year, and also volumes on like DEX is picking up. And everything, and this was just like this anomaly in the data that we had, and like it also, like looking at my data again, it drove also like gas prices sometimes up quite significantly, right? So and I don't know, we had I think transactions that suddenly also cost, I don't know, $10 or something that we executed, and some of them were of course very computational heavy transactions, but like and I think this is kind of like a luxury problem to have, right? You have so much demand that block space actually gets full. What are your plans in the next kind of like couple of months or so, because there is clear usage, right? I think this is no one is doubting that, but what is your kind of like goal to make this really then also scale nicely and retain kind of like its properties that the users expect, which is, hey, fast finality, and then but I want of course not to pay $1 for my transactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the answer to that is the reason why there are like increases in the gas price, depending on the level of demand, is because there's a gas per second limit on the network right now of about 4 million, and that's for a couple of reasons. So one reason is that um, the network can process transactions simultaneously so fast that our nodes can't keep up, can't like keep in sync with one another. So there's not to fall behind, and that's obviously like not good, for network consensus. And the other reason is that there's a lot of bottlenecks with the Ethereum virtual machine. Like, for example, like the way that they write and read data on chain is like very, very slow, and it slows down your network by a factor of like over like 90% in terms of like transactions per second. So like on the first part, what we're running out right now is SnapSync, which is similar in outcome to like SnapSync that you have on Ethereum, which allows nodes to sync much faster than without it. But the underlying technology is like very different, but it will achieve the same outcome. So right now that's being rolled out as we speak to mainnet non-validating nodes, and if that all works fine, which I think it should, then on validating nodes, we'll roll that out as well. And so nodes will have to sync a lot more to one another, and therefore we can significantly increase the gas per second limit. But there'll still be limits in place because of the limitations of the EVM. So like over time, what we're doing is we'll build a team focusing specifically on the smart contract execution engine to gradually replace the components of the EVM. So first beginning with the way that they do reads and writes, and then the Ethereum virtual machine to a Fantom virtual machine, and then changing like the GEF client. All of that will significantly increase performance and therefore transaction throughput. So it's a technology problem. It's not so much to do with consensus actually, or the speed of consensus. It's more to do with the speed of other aspects related to consensus that are also important. Like for example, nodes being able to sync up with one another. But like I think we've got like a very strong base to work off of. We do have an ABFT consensus. It is asynchronous. It does process transactions simultaneously across the network. And so from that very strong base, we just have to improve upon it to make it more and more efficient.
That makes sense. And yeah, I think it's just also just important to note that the gas costs as this commodity at the very base layer really translates upwards into everything, right? And you just have to think about like, why do people really want to use Beefy on Fantom, right? Because Beefy provides them with like a nice selection of amazing products, and especially there's a good APY, a nice yield on these different sort of products that they're offering, right? But why is that? Because they can, of course, like farm on different sort of protocols, and these protocols exist because people can swap tokens for cheap, or also their APY is maybe a bit higher than somewhere else because Beefy can auto compound the interest into the pools much more frequently, for example, than compared to Ethereum, right? Because gas prices are cheap, and then they can pay and execute these transactions with Gelato to automate the harvesting there. And this kind of like gas prices sort of like compounds up to the stack and to the users, and not only from like a direct transaction basis, but from the whole what you can actually do and what yields you can achieve and everything, right? So that's why I think it's of course, I know you guys are working on it, and I read briefly, and I think you also have this new improved RPC system, right? Which I think is quite relevant for like infrastructure projects like us, for example, right? Because RPCs are always an issue on the newer chains, at least. They can be very unstable, and then this is of course very, very dangerous if you cannot connect and get your transaction relayed, for example. But yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think also, given the time, if anyone in the chat has some questions, definitely you can raise your hand, and we can also get some of the crowd to ask certain things if you're interested. Otherwise, I do have certain topics still prepared that I would like to engage with. But yeah, if there's some community members there, you can definitely raise your hand, and then we can get you in here to ask some questions to either Michael or Weso, also myself. I just wanted to kind of lay that out there. But yeah, maybe what is interesting for me as well, Weso, I think you briefly touched upon like these delta neutral strategies. This goes into like what's next for Beefy, right? Yeah, what can we expect with that, or how would that work?
Well, I think, some of our innovation is also reliant on other innovators. So as like products we can go ahead and maximize different strategies with become available, all of a sudden that opens up, all of the floodgates for us to, continue to develop really innovative strategies. So I've been paying attention. There's a lot of I'd say that there's like at least 3 or 4 different protocols who are starting to develop like cross-chain communications between smart contracts, which has obviously been a barrier for anything you want to do that's like, let's say, a cross-chain maneuver like exchange. Let's say you're on a Fantom and you want to exchange something on Avalanche or something like that without leaving Fantom. All of a sudden we're starting to see that there's like these capabilities coming. So, I think there's like, first now there's there's all these really like, unique strategies that we can do, like, sort of like cross-chain that's taking advantage of users and user bases on one chain and being able to maximize and participate in another chain. But then also like, we were talking like if there's, more protocols coming, aboard that are going to like, I guess give you an opportunity to hedge exposure, how do we integrate that and create like some sort of delta neutral strategies to, maximize the return for the investor, but at the same time, minimizing exposure to, impermanent loss and other things. So we're looking at doing, I think, more innovative strategies. Beyond that, we actually we're going to have a live version of our new user interface, which we're really excited about. I think we've been working on it for what seems like 10 years, but we're going to have it live here as the V1 version of, or I guess the main version of the Beefy app. So if anybody wants to play around on it, it's beta.beefy.finance right now. So we're in beta of it, but it's actually where you go to mint BE Fantom right now. What we give you as an investor is all of the information you need to make an intelligent investment decision. So if you want to see historical APYs, if you want to see historical TVL of a vault, historical pricing, you want to know what the specific strategy is or what the underlying assets do, or even, we've defined out criteria for a safety score. That's all available now in the V2 version of our UI. And so now we're, the new UI gives us all these opportunities to really, maximize our partners. We're able to add in these little boxes that will, show you for each of the specific vaults, what the capabilities are with those Moo tokens, whether you can insure it, how you can utilize it, whether it's, financial NFTs or if it's using it as collateral, or I guess we have, partnership with Moonpots, which is one of our BSC projects that we launched that is looking to do cross-chain, and I think is launching on Fantom here within next week. So that'll be super exciting. But you'll be able to see which available vaults will be, available on Moonpots. So, one we're working on, okay, what can we do is like, on the product development side. So like what more unique, innovative products can we deliver that I think a lot of users and investors will want to interact with? And then the second thing is for the user interface side, how do we make like this DeFi experience, I think, one, better for advanced users, so we give you all the information you possibly could need in order to make investment decisions, but at the same time, how can we make it even easier for, new entrants? So, users, maybe retail users that haven't experienced DeFi before, that are a little bit confused, how do we make the experience just overall easier for them? And so those are the two things we're looking to execute for 2022.
Epic. Yeah, I think this is a really, really well thought through strategy, especially also just enabling more risk management for also newcomers, right, that might not actually understand what risks certain yield farming products have, right, and just being able to manage that more granularly is, I think, definitely one of the next evolutions in this space. So yeah, super excited about this. I think we do have some questions in here, right? I think Tell Your Dog has said hi. I think you're already speaker. Yeah, well, what question do you have?
Hi there, guys. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. So I think my question is probably a little more catered to you towards Michael. So I mean, obviously, you just can't seem to get away from it on crypto Twitter, and the discords are all running wild with speculation. So I really just wanted to kind of ask what the implications of Andre Cronje leaving Fantom are. If there's some kind of maybe a plan in place. Again, there just seems to be lots of speculation around, and just wanted to kind of hear from you if you had any opinions or plans on that. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for your question. I mean, like, nothing's changed. I still talk to Andre. I won't disclose like what we talk about, But again, like Andre is an advisor, Fantom. But in terms of like core development, technology development, like nothing's changed. And like when like Anton and Andre were like handing over some of the stuff they were working with the like other projects, like 25 projects, including like for example like multi-chain, was nothing to hand over with Fantom. So like really like nothing has changed that much at all. Development is still happening as it is. We've still got a lot of transactions on Fantom. We've got all these like DeFi projects on Fantom that continue to build up on Fantom, such as Beefy, and then also Spooky and Squirrel have also told me about like some new like version 2 stuff that they've got coming out, which I won't mention right now until they mention it. So like everything just keeps going as it is, really.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I mean, that sounds sounds really promising. Thank you for your answer.
I can also attest that I think the Fantom community is definitely beyond just one developer. Having talked to, I think, like 30, 40, 50 myself. Cool. Jimmy, I think, is waving.
Is it my turn now?
Yes.
Oh, thanks. This is pretty cool, being able to speak with the founder of Fantom. Very cool. I never thought I'd be able to speak with a blockchain founder before. So I have a couple questions. My first overall question is, there is a lot of competition in between different chains, and I have to say, I've held Fantom for a long time, including many of the major projects on Fantom, because I believe that at least at the time that I got into this, there were not enough alternatives to Ethereum. Now, of course, there are many. Doesn't mean that this project has limitations. It just means that I guess the bar of innovation required has to be a lot higher, and therefore the pace has to be a lot more. And if we compare Fantom to the other chains that I'm a developer too, so I'm also building on other chains. It would have been nice if there was like a stronger grant slash kind of incentive structure to build more innovative projects than relying on large whales to basically invest in them. So that's my first question, what you're doing on that area. And I must say, even the grant space right now is super competitive. I saw that, Ripple, for example, has a grant program. And I mean, everyone has a grant program now, but some grants are bigger than other grants. And for example, Near's grant program is kind of a joke. It's offering 25,000 in network credits. So I don't think that many people are applying to them. That's my first question, what you're going to do for just the next big innovations in the space. I see that, for example, Solana and Harmony are building, very interesting DeFi slash GameFi projects. So, you need to get in front of that and do better than that, I guess. And the second question is, in terms of just maintaining the pace of innovation, I guess, during this bear market, I think it's going to be very hard for developers to come onto smaller chains, knowing that if they list anything of their projects, the price would be hit so hard, right? So if you're going to go to a VC, saying that you're building on Fantom may not be as easy as saying that you're going to be building on Solana, because you can see these Solana projects at 50, 75, or $100 million in funding, and it's a rotation of different VC money. It's just the unfortunate rigged game that we live in. So, I mean, I would then add on to that question, if Fantom could, help. Terra Luna has Terra Labs, and what's the name of their VC? They have that VC arm. It would have been nice if Fantom has that too, to be honest. So yeah, the first question is grants and how you're going to push innovation far faster than other projects if we survive this next few years. And the second one is VC arm when? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your question. So on your first question, actually we're doing the Fantom incentive program right now to kind of like make it more efficient and kind of like more targeted in sort of like areas of innovation like you kind of mentioned that we haven't really seen on chain. That being said though, I think it's a bad strategy to just keep throwing money at developers or throwing money at people and say, come to our chain just because we offer you more money, right? Because that's not really exponential growth, right? That's more linear growth where you're just paying one project after another to get on chain, and eventually you just run out of money, right? So the other way you got to compete with the other layer ones is, really on the technology, right? Making it as fast, as cheap as possible, and secure as possible, to submit transactions on the network. And we've already kind of seen that on Fantom. Like the vast majority of the growth on Fantom has really been organic. It hasn't been, paying like one project after another after another. We didn't pay any money, for example, to SwiggySwap and SpiritSwap to deploy on Fantom. They did it of their own accord, right? But this level of competition is a pretty good thing though, because it's kind of like a race to the top. It's about who can get the best technology out there. Although I do think that the future is still going to be multi-chain as it currently is, not across like 10 or 20 chains, but across just a few chains. And so definitely, of course, like we want Fantom to be part of that and to be leading that, and that's why we're tackling some of these technology problems in kind of different angles. For example, like on the middleware, that a lot of other projects are simply ignoring for whatever reason, even though that's a massive limitation on the performance of a smart contract platform, that is kind of like separate from consensus. And on your second part, yeah, we are discussing internally about having a so-called like quote unquote Fantom labs. We already talked to a whole bunch of VCs that are interested in investing in projects in the Fantom ecosystem. So that's coming along as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I would just follow up by saying, there is a treasury for Fantom, and while I understand, of course, that treasury does belong to Fantom, the community was the one that helped build that treasury. And as for the line of logic that throwing money at different projects doesn't necessarily help create exponential growth, it creates linear growth. I mean, VCs basically use a shotgun approach to fund different projects and hope a couple of them succeed. And, I would say that although I understand your belief that this world will be multi-chain, it is pretty clear, I think, to most developers who are human beings at the end of the day and do need to survive and live, with money, that each chain that they're looking at on building on, it has both an incentive and has something special about it. So obviously Terra Luna has a lot of its internal projects that are built organically and stable coins, things like that. And Avalanche has a subnets where you basically build your own chain on that. Fantom, on the other hand, I mean, again, super big believer in Fantom, a big believer in the team. If you would ask someone out in their community what Fantom is special for, I would hesitate to get an answer right now. I mean, I do believe in Aavegotchis, and I do hold a lot of spell token, for example, and I do think that meme is a massively undervalued stablecoin. It's just that it has to be more than that, right? It has to be this part of the business plan where the treasury is used to make Fantom unique in a business position. I think the idea that technology will win at the end of the day kind of ignores the fact that developers make decisions based on not technology usually, based entirely on business and what they can get funded for and what they can get in terms of user acquisition at the lowest cost and the highest number of users they can acquire. So therefore the question is, maybe you should change your mind about that. Throwing money around, if you ask anyone from Terra Labs, I'm sure they'll tell you that most of the money was wasted, but VCs, 95% of VC money is also wasted too, but 5% usually does pretty well.
Well, this is why we have the Fantom incentive program, 370 million like FTM, right? And so if you're saying that we should just like massively increase the incentive program and just compete dollar for dollar against these other projects, well, that simply isn't like really going to work for Fantom, because dollar for dollar, for example, Solana, which is backed by entirely by FTX, has a lot more money than Fantom. All right, so like Fantom has decent amount of money, but they have like I don't know, like billions of dollars, right? So we got to compete in other methods than just dollar for dollar. And so the way that we're competing, or one of the ways that we're competing, again, is on the technology, tackling the sort of like middleware issues that a lot of chains are not really focusing on. And so that's kind of like a unique thing, or going to be a unique thing about Fantom. Already, what's the unique thing about Fantom is like asynchronous technology. So it's definitely like, permissionless, leaderless. Anybody can deploy on chain, no matter where they are from around the world, and participate and come and go as they please, right? Some of the other chains that are out there have honestly like single points of failure, right? Like single points of centralization. So, for example, like with Polygon, which purports itself to be like layer 2, it has, for example, what's called like the ball node, right? And the ball node is the only block producer on the network. And so when that went down, for example, I think last week, because they had like a bug in one of the protocols, that brought down the whole network. So that halted the whole network for, almost a day, I think, right? And Fantom like basically just like doesn't go down. It simply doesn't, because the algorithm is because all validators are block producers. And so you can't necessarily say the same about other networks. For example, like Solana, which has gone down quite a few times in the past. So I do think that in many ways we do have the technology edge. That being said, though, like obviously, the competitors out there are very well funded. They're not stupid, and so it's going to be tough competition. But I think overall for crypto, it's a great thing, because it's a kind of a race to the top and getting better technology out there. Because with the current technology that we have, there's no way that we can scale for blockchains to be as big as the internet, because it's simply not scalable in its current form because of the blockchain trilemma. But there are kind of like ways around it, so to speak, or possible ways around it that people have been thinking about. For example, like sharding, that could really work in the end, and that's how we kind of get that massive leg up in growth to be as big as the internet. And I think there's no reason why blockchains cannot be that big in the end.
Yeah. And I do also want to kind of add to that I think the success of a chain is probably not that much related to how much money they throw at other projects. I think we got offered a lot of money at a lot of different chains, and for us, what's most important is just the community and how many projects are organically developing on there. And I would definitely say that, and there are of course others as well, but I would definitely say Fantom has a strong organic community in there, and this is what you as a developer should also look for, right? You don't want to build, if you want to build a very sophisticated option protocol to create delta neutral strategies, then doing that on a chain where nothing else exists is quite difficult, right? So you need these other developers on there. You need some sort of building blocks on there, and it's a lot of things have also to do with the community aspect of it, and I don't know, conferences and just meeting the people and speaking and brainstorming together, right? Which makes Ethereum also unique, right? Just of course because it was the earliest, but it has this core community, and it doesn't pay anyone to use, right? It actually demands a lot of money to be used. But it's just this network effect that you get at some point. So yeah, one should be wary about deploying only where there's money. If you think about the future success of your project, think about what other projects are deploying on different chains, and your success is probably correlated to the success of other projects. That makes DeFi cool, right? When Beefy grows in usage, usage in Gelato grows as well, right? So this is the cool thing. It's kind of like all correlated, and you work together. But yeah, I think we're also kind of like coming to an end here in this fireside chat. Thanks a lot, Jimmy, though, for your question. It was really cool. Yeah, I think there are no other questions, so I think we can also wrap this up right now. I just want to say thanks a lot for Michael. Thanks a lot to Weso for coming. Epic to have you two on this fireside chat today. I hope, I don't know, we'll soon hopefully meet again. To you, Weso and Michael, I think we haven't met yet, but probably will at some point in real life. So thanks a lot for you guys for coming on. And yeah, maybe if you want to say something to just finish this off, maybe what people should follow or what people should look out for in the next coming days, feel free to do so now.
Yeah, thanks so much for hosting this. I really appreciate it. And thanks for your question, like Jimmy, for your few questions. Yeah, because I think there are very important questions to ask, very critical questions, about like growth of Fantom, and yeah, thanks so much for hosting this. And if you guys want to check out Fantom, you can go to fantom.foundation. It's our website, has links to more technical stuff on our GitHub Go-Offer, which is where the underlying source code for the Fantom platform is hosted. has links to all of our like Twitter, socials, etc. So yeah, again, like thanks so much for hosting this AMA. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun chatting. Everybody can go to beefy.com. All of our links to our socials are there. Come talk to us in the Discord or Telegram. Come share your ideas. Let us know what kind of unique products you guys want to see and help, and we can, maybe start building them. Also, try out our new V2 UI. Go to beta.beefy.finance. Play around. Give us some feedback. We're stress testing it right now before it goes as the main product. So let us know what you guys think of that. And like I said, we're excited to continue to build both on Fantom and with Gelato. And I think there's so much opportunity for all of us to work together to really build out the DeFi space.
Totally. Thanks everyone for coming. Also, just dropping this in here. If you're a developer, if you need to automate your smart contracts, please don't hesitate, reach out, go to app.Gelato Network, paste in the contract you want to automate, and then just click a couple of buttons and everything is taken care of. So yeah, or just come to our Discord, Telegram, chat with us. We are there to help. So thanks a lot everyone for coming. It was a pleasure to have you in here. And yeah, let's continue to chat another time. See ya.